All right, everybody. This is Dr. Jason Kaliva from Coastal Carolina. Kaliva, this is the Temple Exercise Science Association.
Awesome. Good to see everyone.
How's it going? So we're going to start off. He's going to give a brief bio background of himself.
So a little bit about me. I have a bachelor's degree in communications with a focus in marketing. And after I graduated from undergrad, I did a few sales jobs. I sold home theater. I sold radio advertising. Eventually, I got into selling mortgages. And I got in right at the end of the housing boom. It was like the worst time to get into mortgage sales because all the banks were closing down on regulations, which is a good thing because people are getting houses who probably shouldn't have been buying houses at the time. Anyhow, I realized that I really hated sales. I learned a lot from sales. Like I learned a lot about communicating with people, a lot more than my communications degree taught me. I learned a lot about marketing myself. I learned a lot of very valuable information, but I just hated sales. I really dislike people up and annoying people. And the same people probably will call you in like 5 years and annoy you when you're eating dinner. So I had always loved fitness and working out, and that was my thing. So I became a personal trainer. At that time, you could get a CSCS, a Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, without a college degree in something related to the field. So I got mine with a bachelor's in communication studies. And I started personal training. And I enjoyed it, but I realized that the more people I trained, the less I knew and the less comfortable I felt. So I wanted to go back to school. I was the worst undergrad you could imagine. Me right now hates me as a student from 12 years ago or whatever it was. Worst undergrad you can imagine. I had a 2.0 GPA, and I was lucky to have that. I only had that because I found this sweet class at the University of Rhode Island called Stage Combat. And in Stage Combat, we basically played with swords and learned how to throw fake punches and fall down the stairs. It was perfect. And you could take it semester after semester after semester and take Stage Combat 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and get 3 credits and get an A. And that's why I have a 2.0. They probably should have cast me on Pirates of the Caribbean because I'm that good now. Anyhow, so I had to go back to school, non-matriculating, and take very basic classes to, number one, get my GPA up, but also number two, to show that at that time, I was just a jackass kid who didn't have his priorities in order. And now I have my priorities and I know what I want, and here's me trying to prove I can do it. So I took Anatomy and Physiology 1, which was myself and a bunch of freshmen and sophomores who are having trouble passing the class. I took Anatomy and Physiology 2. I took Exercise Science. And I learned a lot. And I applied to Springfield College to get a master's in strength and conditioning. At that point, I wanted to work with athletes and be a dream job would have been to have been an NFL strength coach or a strength coach anywhere working with football players. I started my master's at Springfield College in 2008. And in my first semester, I fell in love with the science. I got really burnt out of personal training. And I learned a little bit about the field as well. Number one, if you want to be a strength coach, you have to absolutely love coaching people. You really have to love coaching the squat, the deadlift, and the clean, because that's what you do for 12 to 14 hours a day. Second, starting out as a strength coach, you don't make a lot of money. One of my friends from Springfield got an assistant position with the Buffalo Bills. Take a guess how much he started out making. Anyway,
30,000.
how much?
30,000.
60.
30,000 is correct. Who said that?
That's crazy.
Right? Back there? Okay. Good call. He started out making 30 grand a year, and he was putting in 60 hours a week. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. I'm already sick of training people. I still love working with people and coaching exercises. For me, I couldn't do it. And that's not to say it's not a great profession or that you can't make a great living doing it, because you absolutely can. Anyhow, I'm getting off track. I fell in love with the science and I wanted to learn more. And I took neuromuscular exercise physiology, and it was the hardest course I took. And I was like, I love this. Give me more. And so that's what drove me to get my PhD in exercise physiology. So now I'm a professor at Coastal Carolina University, and I do some consulting as well. I work with mostly physique athletes now, just on the side.
Who?
I'm drawing a blank. I had questions prepared, and now I'm forgetting everything.
Write them down.
Okay. Well,
how was graduate school? I know there's a couple people here. I know there's a couple people here who were considering graduate school in exercise physiology. How was that experience for you? Is it worth it?
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, you have to love what you do, and you have to follow your passions. I think that's important. Whatever they may be, you should follow them, because grad school, you're committing 3 years, 4 years. If you're going to go for a PhD, 5 or 6, or some crazy people who do chemistry who spend 10 years getting a PhD. So you're committing, granted, it's not a long period of your lifetime, but you're committing a very intensive 3 to 5 to 6 years of your life. So you have to go for something that you love. The great thing about graduate school is that undergraduate exercise science degrees are very broad. So you might have taken some classes that you like. You might have taken some classes that you suck at or that you hate, and then everything in between. With grad school, you can really hone in on that area of exercise science that you want to do. So if you love strength training like I do, and if you love nutrition and supplementation to enhance strength adaptations like I do, that focus on that. And you can spend 80% of your graduate career studying those things. If for whatever reason, and we'll talk about this, you don't like strength training, and maybe you like cardio. Maybe you want to do something with cardiovascular rehabilitation, or you want to go more the clinical route, there's grad schools for that. So you can really focus on what you want to learn about and really get into it. So it was an awesome experience. It's a lot of work, but the good people around me. We were a pretty good team, and it was fun.
How would you say the job market? Is there a big difference between someone with an undergrad degree in exercise science and, say, a master's? Is opportunities different available for them?
That's a really good question. It can't hurt to have more education. I really think it depends on what exactly you want to do, whether or not the additional money invested in a master's degree is going to pay off. To become a really good personal trainer, you need a good, solid base in exercise science and exercise physiology. I don't really think that you necessarily need education. And I think you can get that continuing education by attending seminars, workshops, interning with underneath people who are pillars in the industry. But at some point, you have to get out there and get experience too. So if you want to be a personal trainer, getting a master's certainly will not hurt, but it's not necessary. if you want to work with more of a clinical base, whether that's cardiovascular rehab or pulmonary rehab, then yeah, you need that more formal education.
Over at Coastal, you were also involved in a couple of research studies, and I believe you said you had some ongoing ones you're doing now. You want to talk about some of those?
Sure. Last fall, we looked at the effects of a sport nutrition education program, physician, dietary intake, and performance in Division I baseball players. And one group got in about an hour and a half session of sport nutrition. We talked about the different macronutrients, micronutrients, and how to attain those nutrients through diet using a fairly flexible approach. And the other group got nothing. And what they ate. And after the course of an off season of fall ball, we saw greater improvements in body composition. So the guys who got the sport nutrition education, back up for a second, and also say that I met with them once every 3 weeks in small groups. We met and ate dinner and kind of shot the shit and talked shop. So the guys that I met with, the sport nutrition education group, we saw much better improvements in body composition. In fact, they lost body fat, whereas the other group gained body fat. They also gained a little bit more muscle than the other group, although it didn't reach that statistical significance. As far as performance goes, they were about the same.
So, what were these meetings like? Were you giving them diet plans, or what was it you were discussing with them?
Well, do any of you play a sport? What do you play? You in the blue shirt to my right.
Please talk to you.
I compete in men's physique, MPC.
Okay. And the other person that raised their hand.
I play rugby, and I used to powerlift for a little while.
Okay. Cool.
Been out there for a year now.
All right. You'd be surprised how many Division I athletes. Now, you two are probably different because to compete in physique, you need to know something about nutrition to get in that type of conditioning and have that type of leanness. Same thing, especially if you are in different weight classes. But you'd really be surprised how many Division I athletes don't know anything about nutrition. And they've done studies. We found this as well when we looked at their nutritional knowledge. So the first part was just to get these guys to eat enough calories. They were putting in about 4 hours a week in the weight room, about 3 hours a week doing conditioning, and about another 15 hours a week in baseball practice. And whereas the game of baseball is a pretty sedentary game, aside from pitchers and catchers, they're just there waiting for the ball to be hit. The practice is pretty metabolically demanding. So just getting these guys to eat enough protein so they could recover and eat enough calories so that they could fuel their training and use nutrition to optimize all the hard work they were putting in. Just getting them to understand this was a big achievement. And then to actually teach them what foods provide them with the amount of protein they need. And we used simple serving sizes, talking about the size of your palm of your hand being one serving of protein and how many of those you should eat per day. And, like that fist being about a serving of carbohydrate and how many of those you should eat per day. So we didn't really get into food quality or anything like that. It was really just getting them to meet their macros.
Cool.
Do you have any questions yet?
Go ahead.
Okay.
How do you feel about the dieting approach of if it fits your macros versus traditional dieting?
That's a good question. How many of you don't know what if it fits your macros means? You can raise your hands.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
All right. Any type of movement on your end is really delayed. It's like in slow motion and with motion trails. It's kind of trippy. So if it fits your macro, here's my approach when I work with clients. Number one, if we're to build a pyramid and look at most important to least important as far as improving body composition, and also supporting the adaptations from any sort of training, whether it's resistance, endurance, or team sport anaerobic. At the very base of that pyramid is caloric intake. How much energy do you need? Newton's, what is it? Third law of thermodynamics states that, or second law of thermodynamics, that energy can either be created or destroyed. So if you're eating more energy than you require, your body is going to store it. Most of that storage is going to be as adipose tissue. We are incredibly well evolved and adapted, more so than any other species, to store adipose tissue. And then if you are taking in less energy than you're expending, the opposite thing is going to happen. You are going to dip into tissues to provide the remainder of the energy you require to carry out your daily activities. And so if you want to improve body composition, we first need to ensure that the athlete or client or individual is consuming the adequate amount of energy. Moving up a step on that pyramid is going to be macronutrient distribution. And that refers to meeting your macros. How much protein do you need? How much carbohydrate do you need? And how much fat do you need that calorically equates to your nutrient needs? If we move up a step further, we can look at things like food quality and nutrient timing. And so there's been this real big shift 10 years ago, especially in physique and aesthetic athletes, where we went from these really strict diets of chicken and broccoli and brown rice, and that's all you can eat, to a more flexible or liberal approach. And that would be the if it fits your macros. And the thought is that if you consume the amount of protein to make the changes that you are looking for in your physique. I think some people take it a little too far, because within those foods, they all have some sort of hormonal humoral effect. They have an effect on inflammation and hormone production and things like that. So I think some people take it too far and use it as an excuse to eat a bunch of shit foods. And you see people posting pictures of eating Pop-Tarts online for their carbohydrate sources. So that's if it fits your macros. And ideally, you would look to consume maybe like 75% of your calories from whole sources of food, from real nutrient-dense sources of food. And then it allows for some flexibility in everything else that you want to eat throughout the day. And it's pretty effective without driving people crazy as well, trying to, restrict too many foods from their diet.
Cool. What's your thought on nutrient timing? How important is a post-workout shake?
That's a really good question. And this is a very debated topic. Based upon the literature, it appears that the more trained you are, the more important it becomes. The anabolic response to training and then feeding is lower in trained individuals. Secondly, it depends upon what you ate beforehand. If you ate a pretty significant meal before you work out, then it's no longer as important to consume something right after you're done working out, compared to if you work out at 6 o'clock in the morning and you don't eat, or you eat a very small amount of food, it becomes even more important to consume something about 20 minutes after you work out.
You've also done some work with supplements, betaine in particular. Do you want to explain a little bit about that one, or about supplements in general and their ergogenic effects?
Sure. My dissertation was in betaine, and betaine is a amino acid derivative that is very rich in green leafy vegetables and was first found in beets, and that's why I got the name betaine. What I was seeing, and I was like, I've always been obsessed with supplements. Well, a lot less now than I was, say, 10 or 15 years ago as an undergraduate. And I was that guy that would buy every new supplement on the market and spend way too much money on supplements. And if they didn't work, most of them didn't work. It was almost like an addiction. So when I got to grad school and I started learning more, I wanted to find and see what works and what doesn't work. And I was looking for something novel that hadn't really been tested. And what I found was betaine. And there were a few studies that showed that it improved strength and power output. But what I found as I was reading into it is that they use it as a supplement in pig feed. And the pigs that they were feeding this betaine to were becoming leaner and more muscular, which I thought was cool, because humans and pigs really, as far as our digestive systems go, we're not that far apart. And if you ever live in South Carolina, you probably can't differentiate some of the people from pigs anyways. I wanted to see what betaine could do in humans and what its effects on body composition would be. At the time, I was an assistant coach for Springfield College bodybuilding and powerlifting team. So I had a perfect group of well-trained young men to supplement. They were all lifting heavy. They all had a lot of experience with lifting. They all knew how to eat. So I had this really good group that represents the best benefits for men from betaine. And over the course of 6 weeks, we did find that betaine improved body composition. We saw reductions in body fat and greater increases in lean mass compared to the placebo group. Now, the next step, I think, is to see what betaine does in older adults or the elderly. I think it's well and good that it can improve performance in young, healthy people, but we have this really aging group of people. All these baby boomers are getting older, and they're not getting any healthier, and they're not getting any more mobile. You can possibly thank the technological and industrial revolution. And so one question is, how do we help these people get more active? And maybe some of you will help to work on that and solve that. My thought is, what kind of nutritional or supplemental interventions can we use to improve their efforts? And betaine's been shown to increase growth hormone, and the magnitude to which it increases it probably isn't substantial enough to do much in a young, healthy individual, male or female. But it might be effective and it doesn't produce a lot of growth hormone. Betaine suppresses the genes that are responsible for storing body fat, which again might be very, very important for older adults who are very prone to storing body fat or have excessive amounts of body fat. In chickens, they use it as an animal feed in chickens too. In chickens and in petri dishes, it improves protein synthesis. And given that with aging, you have sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass, the loss of strength. And as we lose strength and power, our ability to live independently is dramatically reduced. And so if we can see greater adaptations from combining resistance training with a supplement in the elderly, it could really have a maybe not a substantial effect, but it could have a positive effect on their health and well-being. And so that's the next step, is to see if betaine will have an effect or enhance the efforts of resistance training in older adults. And we're hoping to start this study in the springtime. Yes.
How do you feel about CLA? Because my prep coach, we were talking about my prep coach. Obviously CLA is marketed as a weight loss supplement, fat loss supplement. But my prep coach was telling me that CLA it's more works on like not allowing the accumulation of adipose tissue, so it doesn't necessarily like cause reduction in body fat, but it just prevents you from occurring body fat.
I've looked into CLA a little bit. A lot of it I saw was when I was doing my dissertation. I saw that CLA and betaine is commonly used in pigs and chickens to improve that meat yield. Now, there's a couple differences here between yourself and a chicken. One of them is obvious, feathers growing out of your ass. But the second is that most of these animal studies that are done, the animals are growing. So they're juvenile or adolescents. In mice, CLA is incredibly effective at improving body composition. But in humans, it really doesn't seem to have much of an effect. And I think your money could be better, and it's an expensive supplement as well. So I think your money could be better spent elsewhere or saved.
Isn't the issue with CLA the isomers? That there's like 3 different kinds, and the ones that are marketed are usually the cheap one that it doesn't do much for humans.
You could be right. I haven't looked into it. I don't know. But that could certainly be a.
What'd you say something?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's just a buffer for sodium.
What's that?
Nothing. Me and Josh always make fun of. I've always been curious about sodium bicarbonate for a buffer to work out a little, little more. I've never tried it personally, but I was just curious if people really do use that stuff.
My thesis, I looked at sodium bicarbonate, and it's toxic conditioning. So I had the Springfield College soccer team, and I put them through what's called the yo-yo intermittent recovery test. Basically, you sprint 20 meters, turn 180 degrees, and sprint back, and you get 20 minutes of rest. And you have to the speed increases. The speed increases, and when you can no longer maintain the pace, the test is over. I started out with 20 soccer players, and I finished with 7 that completed both trials. In those 7 that completed it, sodium bicarbonate was really effective, or pretty effective, in 4 of them. In 2 of them, it didn't make a difference, and in 1 of them, it actually hurt performance pretty bad. The thing about sodium bicarbonate is not everyone handles it very well. Number one, are you familiar with what a placebo is?
Yes.
Okay. Put all capsules, and each player had to take about 15 to 20 capsules to get the amount of bicarbonate they needed. So you can imagine them sitting in a room with water bottles trying to swallow 20 pills. They had to do this for both conditions, placebo and treatment. Number 2, when those capsules started releasing the bicarbonate into the system, it resulted in baking soda burps. For those of you who don't know what bicarbonate is, sodium bicarbonate is baking soda. So these guys were burping, and they obviously knew what they were taking at that point. Number 3, quite a few of them dropped out of the study because that sodium bicarbonate also pulls water into whatever body compartment it is localized in. So in the case of taking it orally, it pulls a bunch of water into the intestines, and you can imagine what the effect is when they go to run.
Yeah.
So if you can tolerate it, and you're doing a high volume training session of some sort, it can be effective. The issue is that if you take too much, you could be spending a lot of time running to the men's room.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
You're an endeavor in that run?
I've read about it and stuff, and no, I'm never going to try it. I've always just heard the number one thing is diarrhea. From everything I've read or heard about, I was just like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's the major side effect.
So if you can't, I mean, if you shouldn't take it in orally, can you use it intramuscularly in like a localized area? So if you're training biceps, theoretically, or delts or whatever.
The way that sodium bicarbonate works is it increases the pH of the blood. And one of the factors hypothesized to create fatigue is hydrogen ions or building up acids. And if the blood pH is high, you can get more acid out of the muscle and theoretically work harder for a longer period of time. So if you were to somehow administer it intramuscularly, it wouldn't work because it's in the blood. Now, if you're looking for a hydrogen buffer, you would want to look towards, say, beta-alanine, which will work as an intramuscular buffer. And you can take it orally, and over like 3 or 4 weeks, enough will build up in the muscle to have some sort of effect. I mean, I guess if you wanted to, you could like administer bicarbonate in an IV. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you want to bypass the oral effects of it, you certainly could, and you'd have the same effect. Again, I certainly don't recommend that, but if you do, let me know how it goes.
Any questions?
So what year are you guys?
Junior, senior.
Super senior.
Sophomore.
How many people are in your exercise science club? Because Coastal just started one, and I went to talk to them.
Exercise science.
I'm sorry, was there a question?
Oh, no.
We were just debating on the number in the exercise science.
Oh, okay. This seems like a pretty good turnout, or a good amount at least compared to what we have.
Any question?
Oh, no.
So I have maybe a final question or so. I'm looking into graduate school, maybe master's or PhD. I'm still unsure of whether it's necessary to go that route. I do have the passion, but I have been looking into some colleges that dual major in exercise physiology and nutrition. And I was seeking, so like just regular exercise physiology doesn't, like on a master's level, won't really cover nutrition to that extent. So should I look specifically for maybe that dual to get like the best, I guess, bang for my buck?
What are you looking to do with the degree? What is the objective?
I mean, I am weary about the strength coach because I have heard a lot more psychological stuff than I've had actual science. I'm more passionate about the science of strength coaching rather than the psychological aspect. I've already personal trained for a good amount of years. So, I mean, I do want a strength coach, maybe a training facility, working with somebody like that, or maybe even just going PhD and going with somebody in pure research type.
Okay. I think it depends if you want to work as a nutritionist and in what sort of capacity you want to work as a nutritionist. Whether you do a double master's. So you can there's some schools that have very strong sport nutrition programs. Sport nutrition is is a big part of exercise physiology. Now, it won't provide you with the knowledge and the skills to work with a clinical base. Now, if you get a diabetic athlete, you can't work with that individual, but it will give you the knowledge to work with athletes in terms of nutrition.
That makes sense.
So I think you just really need to evaluate like what exactly you want to be able to do with it and what your options are.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm probably going to stick pure physiology. I think that's where my passion lies.
Yeah, and there's a lot of schools that have pretty good sport nutrition people within their exercise physiology programs, especially at that master's level or higher.
All right.
So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was going to say, for those of you who are seniors, what are you guys thinking of doing? Or even juniors?
Very engaging. Yeah.
Okay, we'll start with Evan.
Yeah. I was looking into strength and conditioning too as well. I love training athletes and, getting in the weight room, and I love nutrition too. And that's actually a question that he asked. Something I was curious about how nutrition plays into that, because I want to be able to, have a really solid base in everything that, encompasses weight training and adaptations for athletes and even some normal populations as well. So, I kind of, what you did about college and NFL type training, only because I love it so much, but I do want money because I need it to live. So I'm not on the fence, but it's just, I'm open to more possibilities as being just strict, like with athletics and, in that realm.
Yeah. Well, don't get the wrong impression. You can make a real good living work coach in the public sector, a professional team or a collegiate team. It's just not going to happen right off the bat. But in today's economy, in today's world, most entry-level jobs are 25 to 35,000 starting out anyways, and then you work your way up. So you just have to put in the time if that's what you really want to do. So I don't want to give you the wrong impression, like you're going to be living in poverty for the rest of your life as a strength coach. That's certainly not the case. It's just like any other profession. You have to work your way up. You have to put in the time. I think with regards to the nutrition question you asked, most colleges don't have a nutritionist. In the case of most colleges, the strength coach is the athlete's biggest resource for nutrition. In Coastal, until I started working with the teams, and I'm fortunate here because a lot of schools have access to the teams at any level, and nevertheless a Division I level. Before I started, it was the strength coach's job to deliver the nutrition information. So you can have that impact on athletes as well.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. How about to the person to your right or left, whichever that is?
All right. I'm having like a whole internal debate about what I want to do. Like for a while, I thought that I wanted to be a physician assistant, and I was like, no, because that's not even fitness really. And then I played ice hockey for years, and so my passion is ice hockey. I want to do some kind of strength and conditioning with women's ice hockey. That would be great. But like Evan said, I want to make money. And then so I think about maybe I'll get a physical therapy degree and do strength and conditioning on the side. But I just want to be happy too. So I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
He was like, this is a lot.
I dig that. So let me give you my thoughts on that. Number one, if you want to do strength conditioning with hockey, I have a friend from graduate school who was the head Springfield Armory, which was a minor league hockey team. And he's always looking for interns. But anyways.
This is good because I'm from Massachusetts. So I applied at Springfield, but I didn't get in.
Oh, okay. Here's your chance. I think there's a lot of hybrid physical therapy places opening where one half is physical therapy and then the other half is strength and conditioning.
Okay.
I don't know how far you are from Springfield.
I can make the trip. It doesn't even bother me. 2.5 hours, I'm in there.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking of examples. Like, I'm not trying to push you anywhere. There was a place in Longmeadow that they had a real sweet facility, actually, for strength and conditioning in back. Then in the front was physical therapy. And a lot of their people transitioned from PT into strength and conditioning, especially if they had youths or athletes, because they didn't want to stop training, but their insurance ran out and they were able to do more things. And it was a very economically viable facility. You had the benefit of being able to accept insurance on the physical therapy side, and then also the benefit of being able to keep people in-house on the strength and conditioning side, and other people in. So I think you could be very successful in doing both.
Okay.
You could position yourself as a specialist in stick sports, whether it's hockey or lacrosse or field hockey or whatever, and also do PT to make sure that you are, making the money, and then the strength conditioning to supplement yourself. And if it takes off, it takes off, and you can do that full time.
All right. That was good. That was a confidence booster. Like I was lost for a minute of my life.
It happens. I've been there.
It seems a few people want to be strength coaches but are afraid of the market and not making money. Is there other fields that they can focus on that'll be complementary to the strength coach, such as physical therapy or nutrition?
Mm-hmm.
Is there more options like that?
Yeah, I think so. I also think that the private sector is booming. And I really think here's some niches that I think really go under the radar. Number one is kids or adolescents or youth. You have a lot of parents who think their children are great athletes and are going to get a Division I scholarship, and they're willing to invest time and money in that. My mom drove my sister all over the Northeast when she was in basketball playing AAU. I have a friend in Connecticut who has a facility, and it's a gym and also a strength and conditioning center. And he does classes with high school and 8th grade football players. And for a while, he was trying to cater to their parents or cater to that adult population, the population that really needs to exercise. And he wasn't doing very well. And he started volunteering as a football coach. And next thing he knew, he was doing classes with 6 athletes at a time for $50 an athlete, several times a day, and like 3 or 4 times a week, and just doing really well. So a lot of really interested in spending money on their kids that they wouldn't spend on themselves. So I think that is a huge niche, and we're finally starting to get over this stereotype or cliche that lifting weights is going to stunt growth and turn girls into guys and all this other BS. I think the market is only going to grow in that regards. I think another great niche is tactical strength and conditioning, working with policemen, firefighters, SWAT, military personnel. I have clients in the military, and their physical training and the tests they do is basically a joke. And I think that we're investing a lot of money into our military and into making them better war fighters, and that's only going to increase. And the same thing with firemen and cops. I know that I have a friend also in Springfield who specializes in training firefighters, and he's doing really well with it. And then I think the third niche that is up on is strength conditioning for old people. Old people need to lift more weights, and they need to eat more protein. And if you can just get those two things across to them, you can have huge impacts on their lives. And they're finally starting to like, we're no longer trying to protect our old people from the world and from doing any sort of exercise. You know, we've gotten to the point now where we know they should do aerobic training. And we're starting to get to that point. We're right at the tipping point where we know they should start doing resistance training. And I think now is the perfect time to get in on that, especially if you're in an area with a lot of old people, which is everywhere.
Mariana, we want to be when you grow up.
I want to work and with like the like soccer mom population and like do like boutique fitness and like
Boutique?
Yeah, like spinning, like spin studios. I want to own like my own like fitness corporation.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of no. There's a company that I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's like Ultimate Orange or something.
Orange.
Yeah.
I want to buy one of those. I want to like open a franchise because they don't really have them in Massachusetts. I'm from there too, so they don't really have them there. So I want to like open one. Yeah.
I think if you're in like, I mean, there's a lot of money in Massachusetts, so I think that's not a bad place to go, for sure. Especially that eastern side of the state.
Yeah, I think that's where I live there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do. I live on the eastern side. So. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
I also want to do strength and conditioning. I intern at Villanova now, and I really like it. But like again, like when they first hire you after you're an intern to be an assistant, you get paid like $20,000 for the year and like 70 hours a week. So I'm definitely not doing that. But and like I want to go to grad school, but I don't really know if I want to do like an exercise phys program or like a sport management program. I don't know what people are really looking for strength coaches.
Ah, okay. There are a number of grad schools that do a specialized strength and conditioning master's. One, Eastern Tennessee State University is another. They have a really good program there.
My main problem is that all the schools I've looked at with those programs are places that like I really can't live because I don't want to, but
You don't want to live in the Tennessee Appalachians?
I like really don't want to be here. But I mean, if I got into a program there and got like a grad assistantship with their coaches, then I would do it because like it's free. But yeah, I don't know. That's one of my problems.
Yeah, here's what I would say. It's a drop in the bucket of life. It's 2 years where you have to live someplace that you don't want to live.
Yeah.
And then after that, you have a much greater chance of going and living someplace that you do want to live and doing what you want to do compared to if you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, basically my outlook is I'll apply to a bunch of programs, and wherever I get a grad assistantship coaching so that I can go for free, I'm just going to go wherever that is. But,
yeah. And then you can always choose where you want to intern as well, or have a better ability to choose an internship in whatever your desired location.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you are.
All right, I think there's one last person back there.
What do you want to do with your degree?
Oh, with a degree in kinesiology? Well, I want to, first off, I want to get into pharmaceutical sales. So it's kind of, yeah.
You got it.
So I'm doing a minor in marketing, and I'm obviously majoring in kinesiology. So I want to do pharmaceutical sales, but I also want to coach and prep out physique athletes on the side.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to supplement your income. Works for me. I also think we just lost this call.
No,
I'm sorry.
still
Okay. Well, guys, it was great to talk to you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, you can always get my contact info from Josh.
You wanna leave everyone with a closing thought?
Get strong. Eat more protein. Follow your dreams.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jay.
Yep. Take care.
Only took a conference call.